honestly, on camera, the rain looks better, like easier to see on the camera. In person, I can't see squat. I mean, like, what the freak? So using this camera helps me to see the road better. That's so crazy. Because in person, it's actually worse. I can't see as much. What a weird thing, man. But yeah, going through this crazy storm to go pick up an arcade cabinet. What do I get myself into, man? What do I get myself into? I can't even go fast or slow. What a mess. Well, there she is, at least showing that it runs. Control panel needs to get completely redone. All the buttons are bad. The Symmetry sticks are really good though. So I'm gonna keep the Symmetry sticks, just go with new buttons. There's a little bit of magnetism here, but it's actually this metal frame. So there's a metal frame underneath this plastic that's causing that magnetism issue there. So I'll probably have to get that really big round D-mag to do this. I already washed and cleaned this as best I can. It's all original, which is really, really nice. I'm gonna run shmups on this thing for now. Paint the cabinet later on down the road and get a topper at some point for it. The best thing about it, zero burn-in, and the MS8 chassis is in amazing shape. Probably just needs a reflow, maybe some caps. And she's good to go for a long time. So, and then of course, the Japanese cigarette butt being turned off right here. So that makes it 100% authentic. That, you know, you can't beat that. And then some of the locking stuff here. So at least I have all my locks in place and in order. So we're good. This is going to be an amazing build. All right. So I've taken all the molding pieces off that go to this thing, that go around the monitor for housing the speakers. And so you can see there's cracks going through this. And so I'm sealing them from the inside. I'm not too worried about the cracks on the outside. I don't want to really mess with this too much. You know, Bondo fill and all that stuff, and having to sand all that. So I'm going to leave them there. And I'm just going to seal them from the inside to reinforce them so they don't spread anymore. I'm so doing that to the inside here as well. This whole piece just broke off, so I had to stick it on there and apply a lot just to make sure that it'll become one again. And so yeah, it's a Bondo plastic epoxy that I use. Some of this stuff is in decent shape. There's no cracks, and that no cracks, but that has a crack going all around through there. So I've gone ahead and filled that up. Filled any little minor cracks that are starting to show. Might as well fill them in. So, and then it uses 8 ohm resistant shielded speakers. I think these are like, these are the little ones. I don't like these because they're very hard to get replacements as far as aftermarket, but whatever. So gone ahead and applied it, let all this stuff dry off before I start to paint it, because you can see there that it's yellowed considerably. All right, so I figure I'd talk about my next step in this, dealing with this cabinet. So it's coming off. You see the black paint is coming off, and it's flaking off pretty bad. I remember I was applying this painter's tape, and it would start to flake off on its own if I try to adjust it. So my next thing was I shined a light through it on the inside, and then that way I could see where the exact lines were, and then I cut them out with a razor blade as best I can. And so now I've got where I'm going to paint black all around, and then I'll just put a piece of paper and cover all this to make sure I don't paint this, because this is not supposed to be painted. This is where you're going to be seeing the game, right? And then thankfully the logos seem to be more of decals or of a better adhesive, so they're not coming off. I did a test because I was like, oh, I'm going to lose the logos, but no, they're not. They're staying. And you can paint over the logos and the white will still show through. So that's a really, really good thing about this thing. So I'm just going with the painter's tape, kind of gently lifting off all the black paint and making sure I don't damage the decals. And then on the section where there's no decals, I'm just gonna go with the razor blade and just remove all this crap because it needs to come off anyways. It's peeling off. Like I just scratched a little bit and there goes a bigger hole. So it's not gonna last. And with the heat of the CRT, it's just gonna keep flaking anyways. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then I'll paint it over and then we'll be good to go and it will look as best as it can be, honestly. All right, let's talk upgrades here. So I'm going with these ND65/8s. I found this guy had made one already for the Egret 29, but this is for a 2.5-inch woofer. Well, in the States, they say 2.5, 2.5 inches, but they mean side to side. So I did a quick math here. It's more exact math, right? But if I wanted this to fit that thing, I had to resize it down to 80% of it, and that would match up. And I did that on Bamboo Lab there. So what I ended up doing is cutting it into pieces here, resizing the middle, and then putting it all back together, which was pretty easy to do on Bamboo Lab. I know there's more correct ways of doing it, but I don't care. Got it done. Figured it out. Right? And then, so those adapters will be great. These speakers are 15 watts, 30 watts max, so 15 watts RMS, 8 ohms. So they're going to be great. I think they run 80 hertz to 22,000 hertz. So they're going to be perfect. Like I said, it sucked that it wasn't a direct fit, but now that we've got these brackets, it's all pretty easy. I printed several of them. So that'll work out pretty good. I had to also paint the glass because it was flaking off incredibly. So I've repainted the border again and, black taped or whatever. So we're good there. And then I'm glad I did save some speakers from my newer cabinets because they actually will work on this thing. Got the vinyl ready. So I've ended up getting new vinyl for the sticker on the side because it's just a vinyl sticker goes around it. I've been painting things here and there. You can see the original color of the cabinet. I removed the vinyl sticker and now the cabinet's a little bit darker than it used to be. So now I know the color code is right for me. Won't be perfect. So here's the original speakers. They are 5 watts or 5.5 watts. This is more, I think, a tweeter, and then this is the woofer, and they're both 5 watts. So you're running about 20 watts total on this cabinet, which is pretty good for what it was, but I'm going to double that. So these came out of the Namco Blanc cabinets. I saved them. And so these will actually fit with the design. Because Japan just, when they make speakers, they're made slightly different specs in the United States. So this will work perfectly in there. So I'm going to throw these up top here. And then I'm going to throw those new Neos down here on the sides. And that's going to be about 50 watts of power there. 50 true watts. I'm going with this Amazon Bluetooth amp this time just because it's encased in everything. It has a whole kit. I've used these in my Vuelix cabinets. They're great. And originally I was going to use 4 of them, but once I found out the fitting issue, I was trying to find different solutions. So now 2 of these are going to go in my MVS cabinet, so that'll be good. But it's cleaning out really, really nice. And the control panel is looking really clean now. So this is going to be really, really good. Alright, I ended up routing my own LED wiring here. I wanted to leave it as original as possible, but if I ever decided to sell this thing, right? make it to where any mod I did could be removed. So I left the original speaker wiring there, and I wired in my own wiring in place because I'm running it to an external amp. I'm not running it through JAMA. So the JAMA stuff is still there if I ever want to revert it. And then same thing with here. I'm running wiring for the 12 volts straight down here. And I'm going to throw in a power strip here to connect the 12 power supply and all that stuff for the amp and the lights. So that way, nothing gets in the way of the original wiring, and it's all my add-ons that don't affect anything. I think my power supply is not good. So it'll be fine for like a minute, maybe two. Like right now, it's fine. But there it goes. It starts activating the start button, and sometimes it'll activate like up, down, different things. And I checked the entire wiring harness. The harness is clean. There's nothing touching anything anywhere. And I think the switching power supply must be shorting the 5 volts to ground inside the power supply, because there's nothing on this harness that right now. All the switches are disconnected from it. All the whole entire control panel is disconnected. There's nothing else tied to it. I checked the wire everywhere because there's not much of it. You can see, and randomly it'll start just activating the start button. So start button's getting activated, like it's hitting ground somewhere. And I checked the grounds everywhere. You know, there's nothing wrong with this goddamn thing. So I just think the switching power supply said bye-bye. So I'm gonna have to swap it out. It's shorting out somewhere in there, I think. It's a very weird ghost input, but that's what it sounds like to me. Man, I was going crazy with this dang control panel. So I was having ghost inputs, which means things were happening that weren't supposed to be. Like, inputs were happening. I had this entire thing disconnected. Like, I disconnected that up there, thinking maybe some wiring that I did up here was the issue. And the only thing was connected was basically jam harness without nothing. No switches or whatsoever. And I ended up doing quick research online, you know, thinking maybe the power supply, but I checked the power supply. Power supply is throwing solid voltage. Sometimes in the 5 volt rail, if there's like fluctuations, it'll make ghost inputs. It's very rare. I've never even seen it. So the other thing was grounding. And so there is this cut ground wire over here that I've spliced in and tapped in, because I ended up checking the monitor, and there is one thing I did was I took the monitor out, disconnected the monitor, turned it on. You know, I wasn't seeing anything, but I could hear. And you could just keep hearing, you know, the start button hitting over and over, right, on free play. And it wasn't doing it anymore. So I was like, well, then it's something with the monitor. The weirdest thing, right? And so I ended up looking around, and I mean, I did notice that there was this one wire that was cut that I hadn't touched, right? And I did a quick continuity test, and it goes straight to ground, which, you know, the ground is everywhere. This control panel has a ground somewhere here. Where is it? Here. Here's a ground here. This is for the control panel ground, so you don't get shocked when you're playing, right? So I figured this is a ground for something around here. So I just spliced in a ground to the monitor, because I didn't see the monitors grounded anywhere on this thing. Like, there's no ground connecting to the monitor. Like there's a ground connecting to this upper chassis, but nothing to the actual monitor other than this ground. But technically, the monitor isn't really touching metal because it's on a wood platform rotating mech. So I went ahead and wired into ground, and now the thing is working. There's no more ghost inputs or anything. Pray to God it doesn't start doing it again randomly, because it didn't matter. If I wiggled the wires, I thought maybe a wire was stripped or something. Nothing. I checked all the wires. I would wiggle them everywhere, and it would do it randomly. It would just go dee, 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 dee. It would just do it. And so now that I have just put that one ground wire, the machine's behaving like it should. I've gone ahead and wired it in, and I played the game on it real quick, and it's doing what it needs to do. Weirdest thing I've ever seen ever. Like, honestly, the weirdest thing. All right, she's done. Having a 3D printer helped out a lot. Modding, putting better speakers in this thing. The original 5-watt speakers were terrible. Paper cone crap. Now we've got some really nice stuff from Parts Express. These are Parts Express, and those are actually Namco Blanc speakers. But 30 watts now on each channel. So this thing can get really loud if I really want to. The only thing I'm missing now is adding a subwoofer, but the amp that I put in will let me add a subwoofer pretty easily. MS8 chassis is great. Look at that. I haven't even done any adjustments to it yet, and it already looks this good. So just imagine once I fine tune it, it's going to look even better. I am missing the TV shroud, but I'm just going to put some construction paper, cut it to size, and make it to hide all the other stuff up in there. I am missing one of the locks for this thing, but hey, whatever. One lock's good enough. At least it was there, because, you know. Control panel. Ended up painting the control panel and ended up adding the vinyl on the side. Original vinyl was 2.5 inches. Couldn't find any, but I ended up finding a 2-inch vinyl that was pretty cheap. So I just went ahead and did that installation on there. You can see here the original color of the cabinet, and with age it's turned to this. So what I painted it to actually matches what it used to be, but you know, cabinet changed color because I think this was left out in the sun at some point or in a window. Excuse me. I do like this. So this is a kit that was added on. The original cabinet had something that was like closer to this for the control panel, and there was 4 buttons. So this was converted to a Street Fighter at some point in its life, and it stayed that way, which I'm glad with because 6 buttons. And then, so this is an original control panel from back in the day for the conversion. So you can tell right away just the material and everything. And then there is some patina, I guess you can say. Submitsu 6 are in great shape. I just put some new Sanwa buttons in, so we're good there. I'll probably color code them blue here next time. Keep the gray, but just put the blue circle on the outside. So I'll do that at a later time. This, like I said, cleaned up really nice. You can flip it over to 50 or 100 yen, so I just put it at 100 yen. And if you're curious what color this is, it's called Brilliant Blue. So I've color matched it for both there. And then down here, I mean, everything's still intact. That big button's a DGOS button, and then the credit a test. Taito, thank God there's nothing wrong with that power supply. It just ended up being a dumb grounding issue. And then here's some more little parts and tokens. And then down here, I'm running Alpha 3. I did splice in a power strip to power the amp and the LEDs up there. So everything I've done can be easily removed. Very simple to take apart, take out. So if I ever do want to get rid of this thing, it's like, oh, but you modified it. I'm like, well, yeah, but you can demodify it very simply because everything I've done is just add wires. I haven't cut any of the original stuff. So that'll be good. But yeah, never thought I'd have this in the collection. You know, I'd seen pictures of them. Never thought I'd find one. I did talk to Game Saru like a while back on this thing when I found it. You know, and he's interested in more crazy stuff. But he said, like, dude, just getting an Egret, just getting a chance to even get an Egret 29 is just, some people take years to even get one. So really glad to add this to the collection now. Let's see what the year brings, because what a way to start the year.